Today's episode is going to be a little bit different than usual. No story today, except for one that I need to tell you about episode 14. You see, that episode was supposed to release alongside the Bridges and Ports DLC. But when the DLC got delayed, I decided to move forward with the port anyway. And I built this cargo harbor, which I honestly think turned out pretty fine considering all the limitations that we had at the time. But now that the DLC is out, I figure it's time to bring the harbor into the Bridges and Ports era. So I've removed that old port so that we can replace it with a completely custom one. But that's not all that we're going to be doing today. The update that came alongside the DLC adjusted the simulation. And because of that, everything in Segunda Beach is falling apart. Traffic is an absolute nightmare now. And because of that, we're short on resources all over the city, and people are getting sick and dying because ambulances are stuck in traffic. So today, our mission's crystal clear. We'll build a new port, get it receiving cargo, and as it levels up, we'll tackle traffic and let the simulation adjust to the new realities of city skylines too. And just a fair warning, I'm going to try to use realistic solutions that you might actually see implemented in California, even if they're a little bit hostile to pedestrians. So let's see if Segunda Beach can survive the chaos. And if it does, we'll get back to the story in the next one. And if you're excited to tackle traffic and build custom ports, hit the like button and consider subscribing so you don't miss out on future videos. And let me know how your city's adjusted to the new simulation in the comments below for the sake of engagement. But before we jump in, with fall in full swing and the holidays right around the corner, life's as busy as ever. And if you're anything like me, when things get hectic, it's easy to cut corners of what you're eating. But with today's video sponsor, Factor, you don't have to. Listen, I've been a paying subscriber for years, and they've helped me eat better when I'm short on time without sacrificing flavor, quality, or variety. In fact, they've recently doubled the size of their menu and now offer over 80 rotating weekly meals, including twice as many seafood and high-protein options. Yesterday, I had a truffle butter filet mignon at my office for lunch. That's a sentence that, as I say it out loud, sounds kind of crazy, but I did, and it was awesome. It was cooked and seasoned absolutely perfectly, and at only 570 calories, the portion size was spot on. And it was ready in just 2 minutes flat. And that's what I love about Factor. Every meal is easy, delicious, and it fills me up without overdoing it. And it can do the exact same thing for you. If you want to check it out for yourself, head to factor75.com or click on the link below and use code CityPlannerPlaysFB50 to get 50% off plus free breakfast for a year. And that is a new code, so be sure to use this one if you want the free breakfast for a year. A huge thank you to longtime channel partner Factor for sponsoring another video. Now let's get back to it. The first thing we're going to work on today is starting our new harbor. While we're building this harbor, we're going to see lots of pandemonium in Segunda Beach. We're going to see traffic issues, health issues, lack of customer issues, resource issues, death wave issues, and we're going to ignore basically all of it because some of it is just going to happen. We're also going to see that our population is going to just kind of plummet. We're going to ignore that as well because there's nothing we can do about it. It's just part of the simulation adjustment. So let's refocus and talk a little bit about what we plan on doing at the harbor. Now, we had a fuel plant back here, and I removed that as I was deleting the harbor. I'm going to replace that, but I think this time I'm going to place that right here. Right here, I want to place a brand new asset. The Seafarer Shipyards. This asset unlocks when you place the vanilla cargo harbor and passenger harbor, so we already have it unlocked. But it gives you a whole bunch of great buffs, including plus 2% industrial efficiency, plus 5% export profits, and plus 5% electronics production citywide. So it just feels like kind of a gimme, a no-brainer. And then we'll build our harbor right here, and it'll probably go around the corner, and I want to have a whole bunch of cranes and a whole bunch of storage. And it might seem like I'm going a little bit hard on storage. That is for two reasons. Number one, I want this to be a very large harbor. And number two, I want the storage to fill up, which will help us level up. It's a little bit of a hacky way of forcing your harbor to level up. But first things first, let's eliminate some of this infrastructure that we're not going to need. And we will add this rail back in, but that's going to be one of the final things that we do, so I don't want it to be in the way. Now, before we begin work on our harbor, I'm going to add our two signature buildings, starting out with our fuel plant. And then I'll get rid of that soil mound. That was there because of our aggregate storage before. Don't need that. And then we'll place our Seafarer Shipyards. Now we're almost ready for the entryway, but there's one thing I'm noticing, lots of wonkiness right here. I'm I'm going to add a temporary node, remove the key wall on this side, and then delete that node. And that should hopefully resolve some of the issues that we're seeing here. Yeah, we're not dipping down anymore. That looks much better. So now let's place the entryway. And I think I'm going to place that as close to the hillside as I can. Now we've got three options: a small, medium, and a large port entryway. And obviously, besides the capacity, the other difference is that the medium and large ports have additional upgrades, but they're not so beneficial that I think that we have to go for the large. I think for the capacity's sake, I'm going to go for the medium port entryway. And now we'll link this up with the roundabout. So I think we'll just meet right here, go straight back, and then angle in nicely. Now we need more lanes here. And that's specifically so that we can do this. I'm separating this, lining it up nicely, and creating a simple entry into the port. This looks a little bit sharp to me, so I'm going to pull it back. And to me, that just feels much more appropriate for freight traffic. I like that a ton. Now, in addition to this, I want to start to think about the city of Cienfuegos Bay, so I'm going to leave myself a reminder. Eventually, this road is how we'll get from Cienfuegos Bay down into the harbor area. But for now, we just pretty it up like that. But now let's get started on the harbor. And the first thing that I want to do is place the quay wall where the cranes are going to be. And I'm going to build this up a bit and eat into this hill right here. We're going to go with our large port quay. And I kind of want this to be straight with this road. So what I'm going to do is latch onto it, send this down at a 90, and then clip onto here and turn off snapping to the shoreline. Now I can get rid of those guides. And now from here, I want to find the center of this road, and I'm struggling with that, so I'm going to just turn on the snap twos that I know that I need. And there's the center. Now I'll turn this one back on so that I can go up 32 meters here and up 32 meters as well. And then we'll head straight back. Now, obviously, there's a lot of weird key stuff going on. Thankfully, we have anarchy, so we don't have to worry about what's going on here. And funny enough, anarchy tells me no, we're not going to do that. So I'll have to do things the good old-fashioned way. Wow. And what I meant by the old-fashioned way was mostly struggling. I ended up redrawing this thing in a couple of times, getting it to work right, but it's okay. So this is going to be a one-way circulation pattern right here up until this point. I think I want to turn things around right here, and we're going to have a frontage road. So for this, I'm going to snap one unit away. And actually, come to think of it, I think I want to be where this angle ends. So I might go 2 units and adjust the angle slightly. So next, I want to give a little bit of space in between the quay wall and our storage. And I think I'll go about 3 units here. And then I'm noticing that our grid is breaking up a whole bunch. I'm not going to allow that to happen. If we have to redo it, we have to redo it. It's worth it in the end. And there we go, nice and tight with that grid. So now I want to place a couple of storage options here. So we're going to go with our small cargo container yard. And I really want this to be oriented on the quay wall grid. So I'm going to place that right here. And then I'll leave 1 unit in between these. And then I'll run roads in opposite directions. So we have a nice circulation pattern through here. Now, the whole reason I wanted to place these right away is because I'm going to use them to center the cranes. And I'll make sure that I have anarchy off for this. And I'm just trying to make sure that I have 5 squares on either side of the crane. This is perfect. And then this will be a little bit extra. I'm going to move this road so that our grid is perfect. Was that a little tedious? No doubt. Was it worth it? Absolutely. Having a nice tight grid makes adding all these assets so much easier. I will do whatever it takes to keep the grid nice and tight. So now I'm just changing the direction, again, focusing on that circulation pattern. Look at this. The grid, I thought the grid was perfect. It's a little bit off. I'm going to try to fix it. To do that, I'll turn off all my snap twos and then just nudge it over. Oh, and my goodness, here's where I say I'm going to not let perfect be the enemy of good because I am losing my marbles over here. But I think it does look pretty good. It's just a little bit off, and it is just driving me a little bit crazy. I've got to not let my crazy get the best of me though. So I'm not going to go any further on this part. The main reason for that is I want to switch directions and have different assets. But I don't think that this is enough storage to get us to the next level. So what we're going to do instead of continuing this pattern is add another road and go this way. Then I'll again add that frontage road. And we're going to add some small cargo warehouses over here. And I think that this will be good enough for now. So now let's get our main gate attached to our harbor road. And then we'll make this a nice sweeping curve, considering we're going to have heavy freight traffic in here. And we'll start work on our exit. So that will just go along the back side of the hill here. And I basically want to repeat the same pattern that we had on the other side. So I'll come a unit away and join up with the key right here. And then I'm just going to send this straight back before angling like this. Now, the whole reason why it kind of ends awkwardly is I plan on wrapping this harbor this way. So let's prepare this by leveling even more. Now, for this next key wall, I think we'll go in like this. I need to make sure that the angle is going to support having more cranes over here. Now let's recreate that exact same circulation pattern that we have for our other crane areas. So we'll go back 3 units. And then this time, before I add the storage, I'm going to add the crane because I want to make sure that it fits. What I mean by that is if I do this improperly, you'll see that the ship pathing doesn't work, but if I get far enough away, it looks normal. So this is where this has to be. I have no other options. So I'm going to hold off on placing the second one until after I can draw this initial road. So I'll go over my 5 units. And this should be more or less where we begin our storage area. But we're going to go with a different storage for this one. Rather than going for the container yard, I want to go for the small bulk storage yard. So this might be a little bit different. Yeah, it's 1 unit further over. Not a big deal. Okay, and now we're ready for our second crane. I don't know that we have enough space for it, but we're going to try. And it looks like it might work, but this might just be an anarchy thing. We'll place that temporarily, then add our storage, and then finish off our roads. And honestly, I think it might be perfect. That was not what I was expecting, but I'll take it. And then lastly, I'm going to send a road up back here, but I don't 100% know where this is going to end. So I think I'm going to guess for now, and if I have to move it later, that's fine. I'll be okay with that. And that is a thing of beauty. Now, the whole reason why this road could change is I want to have a large bulk storage back here, and obviously I don't know what size that is just yet. But this whole thing is almost operational at this point. There's 2 things that we have to do. The first is get power and water over here, and that should be relatively simple. I'm going to take this road and correct it. So just send that to the edge of this property line, and then we'll send water pipes right there and power right here. And I know that's not underneath the road, but there wouldn't be any structures right there, so that's a perfectly reasonable place for all of them. And now we just need to set up our shipping lanes and make sure that our directionality is correct here. It looks like something is off. that was the issue. There's also a strange jog here. I'm going to fix that quickly. And now we're ready to fix the shipping lanes. Now for these, oh no, I broke them. This is what I was worried about. It's this one right here that's not working, or potentially a combination. I'm not 100% sure. We'll just go back to the drawing board. Too important to get these right. There. And now we'll add our seaways. Now for these, I think I'm going to go primarily with our narrow seaways. And we'll loop back around that way. I think right here is where I'll introduce a different circulation pattern into this part of the harbor. And now we just need to link up with this seaway right here. And this is precisely why I decided to go with the narrow seaway. It gets pretty narrow right here. And honestly, finishing this couldn't come at a better time. Look at all of these high resource cost indicators. These buildings are going to be calling for cargo. That is exactly what we want to see happen. So let's establish some of these routes. We'll start right here, go out to Presidio Bay, and finish that one up. For the next one, I think I'm going to go in the center here, and I want to link up right here, but it's having none of it. How about right here? This one's good. So apparently there's something wrong with this crane. I don't know that I'm going to fix it though, because I've only got 3 places where we're going to go. So maybe we'll just think of those other 2 cranes as being there for aesthetics purposes. So now that we've got this thing operational, we're going to start making progress towards unlocking the rest of the items associated with the port. That includes the intermodal train terminal, which is probably the thing that I'm the most interested in adding. But we have to transport 50 million goods by ships, and everything that we shipped before this doesn't count, which kind of stinks, but also kind of makes sense. So ultimately, we're just going to have to sit tight. Now, I do want to place a couple of upgrades. We have the customs office. This will drop the crime rate. I think that that is not a bad thing to do, even if it does reduce our export profits and increase our import costs. That's one of the reasons it was nice to add our seafarers shipyards. Kind of offsets that a bit. Additionally, we've got our small tank farms. I think I might add a few of these because these will start calling for cargo, which is going to be really helpful for us. Now, all of these have to be on a road, which is why I decided to take a break from placing these and draw out some more roads. But now that I've added those, I should be able to easily load the rest of this up. Now, unfortunately, the snapping got me and I had to place some of those by hand. You can see that all of these are just kind of a little bit askew. So I'm going to use the relocate function, Control R, and just manually adjust these just a bit to get them to be absolutely acceptable. And you can kind of line these up by looking at these staircases right here. And I'm not sure if that makes it better or worse. I don't know. I'm going a little bit crazy. But either way, this thing is operational. We've got our first ship coming in. It's actually bringing in quite a number of goods, which is going to help us reach our goals. And after just a little while, we've got our first 1 million tons transported. That gives me hope that this will be ready in short order. And boy, oh boy, look at all of those indicators, all sorts of issues. So while we wait for our port to level up, let's fix some traffic. Now, I decided to let things run for about 20 minutes, and things are really starting to fall apart. You can see that there are just indicators everywhere showing that we're having health problems, that we're having high resource costs, we're having a death wave, we have lots of traffic, all sorts of issues. So at this point, I think the real problem is that the simulation is still balancing, and that's why we're seeing many of these issues. But there is a real traffic problem that we should tackle that will hopefully speed some of this along. And I think that most of it has to do with the Verde Coast Highway, so that's what we're going to deal with. But I do want to point out one thing that I did. I turned off all of these rail yards because I realized we were probably importing and exporting a lot of our cargo via rail, which was going to make leveling up our port a little bit slower. So after disabling those, we can see that we're about 1/5 of the way towards unlocking our intermodal train terminal, which is really the thing that I want to unlock here at our port. So that's some good progress. So with our Verde Coast Highway traffic improvements, I think we're going to start here by the garbage center and work our way up the coast. And For these, I want to really focus on adding capacity where it makes sense, looking at each of our movements and targeting our improvements where they're going to give us the most bang for our buck. So right here, for instance, I want to take a look at this leg and see what I need to improve to actually get this to unclog. So to do that, I'm going to toggle the traffic routes right here and take a look. There's a couple of things that jump out to me. It seems like that through movement is really one of the dominant movements, but honestly, all of the movements could probably use a bit of capacity. Now, rather than adding an extra couple of lanes all the way down here, I'm going to add turning pockets. So for that, we're going to use a 4-lane asymmetric highway. I'm going to upgrade it like this, and I'll go back a little ways. Then, so things look a little bit more natural, we'll go with the 3-lane asymmetric, and then I'll use Move It to slightly adjust the node to make things look a little bit more natural. Now, this is a good start, but there's more that we have to do. I'm going to use the traffic mod to adjust our lanes because I think that this isn't the best configuration. First thing I want to do is remove all the unsafe movements. Those are our U-turns and things of that nature. And then for the middle lane, I'm going to get rid of this right-hand turn. So now this is a through and a left. And then for that right-hand turn, why don't we make that a sweeping through movement? To do that, I'll upgrade this to be 3 lanes. I'll grab the one-way road, and I'll come back a little ways, and I'll curve right into this. Now I've got to remove a bit of capacity. We did that to get our lane math correct. And now we'll once again use traffic, make sure that our lanes are going in the right direction. For instance, we don't want to right here. That doesn't make any sense. Get rid of this U-turn. And that's already a heck of an improvement. Now I'm wondering if that exact same treatment would do us some good right here. And I can see that there are a lot of vehicles turning right. So we would probably benefit by having a dedicated turn lane right here. So let's add it. So we'll go with a 5-lane asymmetric right here, 4 lanes right here, which might seem excessive, but in just a moment, we'll see that it's exactly what we need. Drop down to 3 lanes, do a little bit of cleanup, and look at that. Everything is clearing up right here exactly as we wanted it to. And then lastly, we need to do something about the San Martin Obispo Avenue leg. I'm noticing that there is no through movement here, which is a bit problematic. So I'll convert this to be a highway segment, which will cause some problems with water and sanitary sewer. So we'll relink that there. And then though we could leave this as is, I feel like we got to clean this up. And this thing is functioning incredibly well now. So let's turn our attention to our next junction over here by the mall. And this one doesn't need quite as much work, but there are a couple of improvements that I've wanted to make for a while. First of all, this geometry right here is not great. And that's a bit better. Then I want to take a look at the dominant movements here and make sure that we have enough capacity. Check this out. Look at that left-hand turn. I bet you that we could benefit from having a dedicated left-hand turn lane. So let's add one, and I'll adjust this node right here so that this becomes a dedicated left-hand turn lane, and then we'll formalize that with traffic. And this already appears to be failing. I think I need to have 2 left-hand turns, and you can see that this instantly balances out, and things appear to be working a bit better. Or at least I thought that they were, but we're backing up and we're almost back to the highway. So I'm gonna go even harder. I increased the capacity of that left-hand turn once again by giving it double dedicated left-hand turn lanes that are not mixing at all with that through movement. And you can see that it's completely cleared out, which is great to see. Now I wanna clean things up back here with the lane math. And this isn't because I think it's going to help anything. I just think visually it'll look a little bit nicer. So I'll add a node right here, drop down to 2 lanes. And now it feels like we're adding a lane right here, which to me feels a lot more natural. Now the only other leg that is messy over here is the leg coming from the industrial park. And honestly, it kind of makes sense. So let's see what this movement's doing. And similar to the other movement, it's doing a little bit of everything. The thing that's challenging over here though is we have less space. So I'm gonna start out by going up to 3 lanes and see if that does the trick for us. And to ensure we have enough capacity, I'm gonna take this back even further. And then I wanna use Move It to try to improve this angle. And that's essentially made those movements a bit more sweeping, which should allow drivers to take them a little bit faster. Now this crash here is obviously gonna make it difficult for me to tell what's going on. So we're gonna have to wait this out for just a couple minutes. And right now we have a double left, and I think that that is the wrong movement. You can see that there's far more people that wanna go straight and right. So I'm gonna adjust these connectors. And after doing the final adjustments over here, everything is flowing incredibly well. And I know it might seem like there's a lot of capacity right here, but I'd rather target that capacity right at the intersection than upgrading the entire length of the highway. This is a much better solution. So let's keep going down the Verde Coast Highway. Now let's take a look at this guy. And this might not seem problematic, but you have to remember, it's midnight, so you're not gonna see a lot of traffic right here. But I assure you, during the peak period, this thing really backs up. Now, the funny thing is, this is actually the real design of the Pacific Coast Highway in this location. I wanted to do a little bit of a nod to Morro Bay, and this is my nod to it. But it just doesn't work all that well in City Skylines 2. But there is an easy fix. Basically, I need to separate these movements, and to do that, I'm gonna get rid of these roundabouts and send this ramp underneath this highway. And this is exceptionally simple when you have anarchy. I'm just gonna upgrade this to be an elevated segment. Gonna improve this geometry just a little bit. And then let's make this connection. So I'll dig out right here, and then we'll probably connect maybe right back here. So we'll slope up to this location. And my hope is that I can make this connection without anarchy on. And I'm not quite low enough, so I'm gonna drop down, and that does the trick. And that was a good improvement right here, but we're having quite a bit of backing up right here. And I think that this should be fairly simple to fix. Once again, another targeted capacity enhancement. And then I want to control some of the crosswalks in this area and see if that improves things. So I'm going to remove many of these. And then I again want to see the movements. And it seems like everyone is turning right. So with that in mind, even more capacity right here. And after watching the gridlock for a while, I think I have 2 more improvements. First is right here on this ramp. Let's focus on lane math. And that's been helpful, but we can still do a bit more. We'll go with the 3-lane asymmetric with an extra lane going towards downtown. And we'll start that right here at this ramp. Now this will add a whole bunch of traffic signals, so I'm gonna remove most of these. And you can see that that immediately cleared this, which is outstanding. Still, I think I'm gonna take this a bit further back, and that's because we're having issues at our next junction as well. So I'll upgrade all the way to Segunda Beach Boulevard. And now we get to untangle this. And the first thing that I wanna do is add capacity to Segunda Beach Boulevard itself. So we'll go with a 4-lane divided road, the median. And the whole reason that I decided to upgrade this one is not because there's a direct need right now, but rather because I want to direct the traffic onto Segunda Beach Boulevard. It's the most appropriate place for it. So speaking of Segunda Beach Boulevard, this whole road backs up from time to time, and we're going to be doing some kind of extreme solutions to make it work. This is going to be a lot of eminent domain and something that probably wouldn't be incredibly realistic. But here's the thing, all the new traffic necessitates some pretty extreme solutions in my mind, and we're going to give ourselves this one. So what I want to do is treat this like an arterial and have fewer junctions. There's just a lot of them right now, and it didn't matter before, but now it does matter. So the way that we're going to resolve this is to cul-de-sac a whole bunch of these roads. Starting out with this one, we'll add an eyebrow and then delete this road. Then because we have plop the growables, we can move some of these around the eyebrow. And this is not the ideal solution, but I think that it's pretty good. And it's kind of what I want to do for the rest of this road. And this is why you can see we have lots and lots of backing up. So for the rest of these, I'll just go with something like this. We'll add the cul-de-sac bulbs, delete these connections, and then delete the alley segment. And now we can move these around individually and then wrap the homes around the cul-de-sac bulbs. Now, essentially what we just did here was fix roadway hierarchy. And is this beautiful? I don't know. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But I do appreciate that this would be considerably safer and traffic flow should be better once we make the rest of our fixes. Now, we've got more roadway hierarchy improvements to make. One is right here. You can see that hierarchy kind of breaks down and we're not really prioritizing any movements. I'm going to fix that. The way that we're going to do that is a few-fold. I want to get rid of this connection. This now forces all of this traffic onto Segunda Beach Boulevard. Now I want to change which road is Segunda Beach Boulevard. So basically we have this road right here that is teeing into Segunda Beach Boulevard, but the dominant movement is clearly from Segunda Beach Boulevard this way towards Lake Valley. So I'm going to add a node right here and right here, and then we'll change the dominant movement. And now before we resume this, I want to adjust this a little bit, and we'll use 2-lane one-way roads to make our connections here. One straight through, and the other will tee in. And then I decided to use move it a bit just to improve the geometry here. Now we've also got some water and power madness going on. So let's get all of this repaired. And now we'll resume this. This movement should be prioritized, but we've got a couple of extra signals here, so let's clean that up as well. And then we'll use our asymmetrics right here to add capacity so that we have more of a free-flowing movement. And finally, I used traffic to fix up the lanes, and it's still looking pretty bad. But I've got one more idea. Let's make these one-ways. So one way in right here, one way out right here, and then we'll take each of these and have one lane. And after observing this and adding targeted lane enhancements, this area is completely clear now and it looks like things are flowing really, really well. So there's one more area that we have to focus on, and that is right here near our new district. And I want to do the exact same thing. We're going to focus on our two collectors coming in, which will probably be this street right here and this one right here. We're going to sever the rest. So I'll just add nodes and add the cul-de-sac bulb. And I'll do the exact same thing with these next two streets. And you can see with those couple of adjustments, traffic has already cleared up considerably, but now we have a lot of neighborhood traffic. And that's why I want to increase the capacity right here. And we'll go with a 4-lane divided road. And this right here would be the natural ending point, but I might go a little bit further And the main reason for that is this is where development begins. So we just naturally can't take this any further. But this is our couplet. That's probably where it really needs to get to. And then I remove signals all the way up and down here. The final thing that I want to do is just make sure that these roads line up nicely. That's looking pretty good. Let's do the exact same thing down here. This time I will end this at the couplet though. And this is already a considerable improvement. So even though we could add lanes, I think with the local roads, I'm gonna hold off on doing so. And let's move on to the next intersection. And for this one, I wanna add capacity. Now I know it doesn't look bad right now, but again, it's 2 in the morning. This one gets really backed up. So I'll add a ton of turning capacity and then bring this all the way back to the highway. Then let's take a look right here. Remove unsafe and U-turns. Make this a double left. Make this a double right. Have the through right here. And this should be a considerable improvement. But there are some other issues here. We've got signals all the way up and down this road. So I'm going to remove most of these. And then I'm going to be eliminating this road altogether. And the reason for that is rather than having people use this intersection, I'd much rather they use this interchange. This would be much safer and much smoother, and it's not that much longer of a route. So since we've reduced capacity right here, let's add a bit more right here. And then at the highway itself, we'll add proper lane math. And we have some backing up here, but it's all occurring on this ramp. And in my opinion, that's just fine. What's less fine is this. This is backing up onto the highway. And I think to deal with this, I'm going to try to add a sweeping movement. And this isn't the height of realism, but I'll bump these over. We'll give ourselves that extra lane, and then we'll add that dedicated turn. And I would have thought that this would have resolved things, but we're still backing up a heck of a long ways back. So I think we need a double right. And that change completely cleared this ramp, so I'm happy to see that. And it seems like our issues over here are pedestrian traffic. Oh my goodness, so many pedestrians. I'm gonna get rid of these crosswalks. There's no need to cross right there. And then I want to get rid of the crazy movements here. You know, and after making these adjustments, I'm starting to see the backups occurring again. And this gives me a kind of crazy idea. I'm going to add one more interchange right here. This is going to be kind of tough to fit in. It's not going to be a great interchange. It will definitely be substandard, but I think it's going to relieve some of this congestion. So the first thing that I want to do is get rid of the roundabout, and then I'm going to take this arterial and turn it into a highway. And this right here is the most openly hostile thing that I've done for pedestrians today. I just want to try to get pedestrians off from this road because they're causing all sorts of issues. Now, I want to get people off this road and onto the highway. So let's go with a 5-lane asymmetric right here. Upgrade this to 3 lanes. And then I'm going to build a substandard ramp. Now, the reason that I say this is substandard is that it wouldn't meet interstate standards today, or maybe even state highway standards. But let's just imagine that it got grandfathered in, and that's a step too far even for me. And now to fix that road naming, I'm just gonna add a quick node right here and then delete it. And now all that funky stretching is gone. It looks a ton better. One leg down, but I want to have a full interchange. So let's add another ramp right here. And it seems like there was a lot of demand for this ramp right here, but this one is getting a little bit less use. So what I'm going to do is continue with that asymmetric a bit further. And there we go. 2 movements down, and boy, is this getting some use. And look what that's done over here. It's cleared a lot up. It seems like this movement was the one that was desired. So let's finish it off. And I'll basically remove this retaining wall, take it back a little ways, and then do a bit of grading. And then I've ultimately added this ramp right here, increased capacity on Tyler Street, and then when we get closer to Segunda Beach Boulevard, I've added even more turning lanes right here so we have the full range of movements. And we'll do the exact same thing right here for our final movement. And honestly, for how tight this area is, the interchange isn't all that bad. Now, to get this functioning a little bit better, I did have to restrict the left-hand turn right here and make it right in, right out only. But that has basically resolved all the backups that we have right here. There's still heavy traffic, but it clears relatively quickly. And that's also fixed things over here for the most part, though during the peak period, we do have a bit of backing up. And ultimately, with the pedestrian traffic here, I don't know that we can do a lot besides increase our bus service in the area to fix traffic. And that leaves us with one more intersection to take a look at, this one right here. Now, we already removed one leg, so I'll just get rid of the stub that we have right there. Then we'll fix our lane math. Do the same thing on this side. Then we have to control what's happening here, because we have U-turns as the default movement, not exactly reasonable. And then I've cleaned up everything right here. Looks like we've got one additional spot that needs a little bit more work. There we go. Now, we should hopefully see some improvement here. But I'm noticing we've got a lot of demand to go this way, and that makes me think, maybe we should increase capacity here. This should be fairly simple to do. Just add a 3-lane asymmetric. And then right here, we'll go with 4 lanes. And that makes our lanes going into Segunda Beach a bit more consistent, and it gives us that extra turn lane right here. And I can see that we've got some strange things happening at the intersection now, so let's fix that. And now things should be flowing fairly smoothly. And if we ever wanted to improve this in the future, all we have to do is give dedicated turn lanes. And though I'm not going to do that today, I will do this. Now we have that dual left right here, and that should hopefully clear up the backups right here. And this is working okay, but you can see that we're backed up quite a ways back. I think I have one more improvement that I want to make. There we go. Gave a little bit more capacity, and now we've completely cleared this. That is looking much better. And ultimately, while these changes didn't fix all of our traffic problems, when we zoom in, we can see that even in the heaviest locations, we don't have complete blockages, which is what we had before. So this isn't perfect, but it's considerably better. We have to remember the simulation is still adjusting. In fact, we've resolved most of our high resource cost issues, but we have a huge death wave and a lot of health problems. So let's switch gears and focus on improving our services. I think from this view, you can see every issue that we have to tackle. Healthcare, death care, garbage collection. And there's still a bit of traffic, and I'll be honest, I've spent about another 20 minutes off camera just making targeted improvements, adding a bit of capacity, turn lanes. It doesn't seem to have done all that much. Traffic is just kind of relentless now, and the pedestrians don't seem to yield at all for cars. And as a result of the number of them, you just kind of get crazy traffic everywhere. I'm going to say that if it's moving, I'm happy. But anyway, let's get to adding these services. And I think I want to start out with healthcare, and I don't want to overdo it. I want to plan a hospital at some point in the future. So I think I'm not going to add a large major hospital facility right now, but I will add something smaller. I feel like this Eastern European medical clinic with 9 ambulances is basically as good as we could hope for. So I'm going to add 2 of these, one to the downtown area and then one to our new neighborhood over here. I'm going to put the first one right here on Pacific Avenue. And then I'm hoping I can change the color of this. And it doesn't recolor all that well, but honestly, this is probably better than the color that it was, which was kind of a strange green color that doesn't really fit this area. Now, this building doesn't have any upgrades, so it kind of just is what it is. And honestly, that's going to be fine. Now, the other thing I want to add while we're over here is some sort of death care. Our cemetery is actually overfilled. I'm not sure where the extra 718 bodies are going, but we should probably make sure that we can process more dead over here. We have a crematorium over here, and it says that there are no vehicles in use. I'm not 100% sure what's happening with that. So what I think I'm going to do, let's eliminate this. And I'm going to replace this with one of the new Netherlands crematoriums. And this has 18 vehicles, and I just want to make sure that these end up in use. You know, maybe the problem is that we're facing this alleyway. Let me spin this around. And I think that may have been the issue because now I saw a hearse get deployed immediately. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to add another death care facility, and I might add that closer to the hospital. And this time I will go with that vanilla crematorium. And then I want to add some upgrades if I can. This fit honestly isn't great. I'm going to call a mulligan on myself. And this should work okay right here. In the communities that I've worked in, death care can basically go anywhere and it can replace homes. So this is an appropriate location for this use. But I want to make sure that we've got more capacity. So I added the additional incinerator, and then we've got this hearse garage. I'm going to sneak that across the street. And then I'll use Move It to spread the houses a bit better. And that's great. Now there is one other location where I want to add a bit of healthcare, and that's over here. We have a small medical clinic right here, which seemed appropriate before, but is clearly not in a good way. So let's eliminate this and its parking spaces and find something with more capacity. And the sad thing is basically nothing fits here. So I think I'm going to reconfigure the blocks just a little bit. I want to go with this USA Northeast Medical Clinic. It has 6 ambulances, which is going to be great for us. I'll orient it towards Hickorywood Street. We'll get rid of this alleyway. And then I think that we're just going to call a bit of a mulligan on the road behind it and these uses right next to it. So basically, I'll get rid of this alleyway, pull the uses back, get rid of this park, and then do a bit of cleanup. You know, this may not be the height of realism, but it is the height of making me happy. And I think that that's good enough in this particular instance. I'm going to also add on these extension wings so we can serve additional patients over here. We're quite far from the rest of the city. Perfect. This does feel very northeastern though. So before I forget, we'll add some palm trees to make it feel a little bit more southwestern. Very good. Let's also add a bit of death care out here. And this Netherlands crematorium is just so good. We're going to place another one of these. It, to me, looks like it could almost be a rec center, which makes me think maybe we could just put it right across from the park right here. And though this comes with 18 hearses, I think I'm going to add even more because I want to deal with death care not just now, but well into the future. So I'm going to place a couple of these on the back end, and that is going to work really well for us. And it's clear to see that things are already improving, but there's more work to do. I want to take a look at our transit routes and make sure that our overcrowding isn't too bad. And we've got 3 routes that are over capacity. For this first route, we just simply only have 1 vehicle, and it looks like we could probably use 3. So I'll add 2 more. For our next route, Mall to Harbor, kind of a similar story. There's about 300 people queued up. I'm going to add 3 more vehicles. This creates a new problem though. We're out of transit vehicles and we don't have any space near our existing bus depot. So I'm going to add a new one. And there were 2 spots that I've been thinking about. One is by the harbor, but I've got something else I want to put over there. I'm going to place our new bus depot out here. And this might seem like a strange location. We've already got our Segunda Beach Department of Public Works out here, our road maintenance vehicles, and it kind of makes sense to be able to have the mechanics go back and forth between these buildings. So we'll add that facility right here. Clear some of the woods, make sure that we have all of our connections made. And just knowing that I'm going to continue adding capacity to routes, I'm going to add an extra garage. And with this new facility, we should have enough capacity to basically do whatever we want with our bus routes. So let's head back and take a look at them once more. And for Lake Valley Harbor State Park, 200 people queued here, 400 queued right here. I'm going to add 5 more vehicles. For Segunda Beach counterclockwise, 200 right here, about a full bus right here, and another full bus right here, 4 more vehicles. For our new neighborhood route, that's the one that actually serves this neighborhood, we've already got 9 vehicles assigned, but honestly, I think that 1 more wouldn't hurt. We'll go to 10. Lake Valley to Marble Mountain seems fine, and that makes me think that we've gotten to the routes that don't need any additional capacity. Perhaps the only one that could use a bit more, and this is just because the route is long, is Segunda Beach counterclockwise. We've got 1 stop right here at the harbor with 200 people queued up. So because we have excess capacity, I'm just going to throw out 3 more vehicles at this route. Obviously, that is a very quick and dirty way of doing this, but I think it is going to help, and it's going to help us with traffic, which is continuing to be a major challenge. I'm also hoping that it helps with some of the pedestrian issues that we're having, particularly near our low-income apartments, which this area is absolute pandemonium. But we've got one more thing that we need to address, and that is trash collection. I've just been noticing that there are indicators popping up here and there, and the place where I'm noticing it the most is actually at our harbor. So what I'm thinking is we're going to add a garbage collection facility right here at the harbor itself. Now, I think that our actual issue is garbage truck capacity. We just don't have enough of them. So really adding any of these is going to be beneficial. The recycling center will allow us to add additional vehicles, but it's a little bit too big for the site that I want to put it on. I guess we could make it work, but it kind of eats up all this land. I'm going to try the Japanese recycling center. And this one doesn't have any upgrades, but it's relatively small. And the reason this matters to me is that I'm basically going to wrap this entire site with roads and then open up the other lands around here to industrial development. And that looks pretty good. I decided to redo some of the surface work on here because it didn't exactly make sense to me what was going on. And I think that this looks a ton better. But there is one thing I probably should do. Just want to take a look at the invisible paths because you can see that some of these entryways that I added wouldn't actually function, and we can make them function. And now this should be fully functional from all sides. I like that a lot. Actually, one more thing. Extra picky. We'll make this wide enough so that we can access all those bays. That is wonderful. And now I'm going to let this run for a few minutes to see if all those status indicators disappear. And after watching this for a few minutes, it seems like the same few buildings are having issues. And that makes me think it's less of a service issue and more of a building issue. So I want to take a look at these individual buildings and see if I wiggle them, if things improve. And yeah, this building is clipped into another one. That's probably the issue. I'll remove that retaining wall and see if that fixes it. And indeed it did. So that makes me think that this is the exact same thing I've got to do with these last few buildings. Look for the issue, maybe even eliminate the building, and allow something else to spawn in that's not having problems. And after making those adjustments, those indicators that just weren't going away seem to have been resolved. And before we move on from services, there's one thing I want to check on. I want to see if our port has completely leveled up. It has. We've unlocked everything. And the whole reason I care about that is I want to turn all of these rail yards back on and hope that they help resolve some of our traffic, which will help out with our health and death care. And it feels good to have all those back on. Everything should be fully operational at this point, and that means it's time to go back and finish our harbor. Now, reasonably, we don't have anything that we have to do to the harbor. I just kind of want to make it feel a bit more filled in. And one of the most important things to do that, in my opinion, is going to be adding our rail connection. So I'm going to add that right here. And I'm likely going to be spinning this around, but I want to add the road first. Now, before I do anything, I know that I want to have some of these medium container cargo yards going in this direction, and I just want to see, yeah, that's going to fit perfectly. So I'll relocate this, Control R, place this like this, and then make a nice clean connection in. Now, I kind of don't love this jog, especially considering we've got a whole bunch of fuel tanks right here. I'm wondering if we should actually clean this up. So we'll do something like that. And now that we've cleared that up, I'm going to shift this entire track over. And that's now a nice clean connection. So let's finish off the facility by adding a ton more storage and then basically every single add-on that we can add to the port. Back here, I'm going to go with this medium storage like I mentioned. Now that I've got all this storage in place, I'm going to add in the remaining uses. That's going to include our employee canteen, which I think I'm going to place way over here, along with a bit of parking. We'll also add our port security, and I think I'll place that right about here, along with our emergency response. And then we've got two more things left to do here. Starting out with making sure that our directionality makes sense here with all of our roads. And then finally, let's reestablish that cargo train route into our harbor. And here we have our first train rolling into our new harbor. It is a thing of beauty. And with that, all of the core components of our harbor are in place. So let's move on to a little bit of landscaping and detailing. We're going to focus 100% of our detailing attention right here at our new harbor. The things I want to focus on are going to be stretching surfaces, making things feel a bit more dirty, adding fences around here, and then for these couple of empty parcels, I want to grab factories from the rest of our industrial area and just kind of clone them in over here to make this area feel complete. So with our plan in place, let's get detailing. And after about 2.5 hours of detailing, the harbor is finally complete, and I really love the way that it's turned out. I added a ton of decals and tried to make everything feel a little bit dirtier, a little bit grimier, a little bit more lived in. I also tried to give a decent buffer in between the harbor and the surrounding uses to try to make it feel like this is a dedicated complex that's completely separate from everything else. And then I'm really proud of this, I went ahead and tried to make these buildings feel a bit more weathered and a bit more used. So I added a whole bunch of stain decals, I added trailers and vehicles, and just tried to make it feel like this exists for a reason, like people come here all the time and they're actively working in this location. And honestly, I think it ends up looking really good when you give it that little bit of extra shine. Now, I ended up spending a bit more time in this little parcel than I thought that I was going to, but I ended up creating some interesting looking factories, just cloning buildings from the rest of our industrial area. And honestly, I think it feels really good. I also ended up leaving this parcel empty and just kind of fencing it off, imagining that maybe this would be developed at some point, but that's in the future. Right now, it's a vacant parcel. There's just some dirt and some old foliage there, and it's just fenced off so that people don't mess around with it. And with all of that complete, there's only one more thing left to do. That's take inventory of what we've done with a brief city tour. Okay, let's call a spade a spade. This was a strange episode. We rebuilt a whole bunch of things. We fixed a whole bunch of traffic. We just kind of responded to issues as they were coming up, and honestly, it was a ton of fun. The reason why this one was so fun for me, though, is because I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to build in Segunda Beach again about a week ago. And that's because the build was crashing nonstop, and I honestly thought that it was kind of going to be a goner. But thankfully, we figured out the issue and we were able to create a port that I think is a ton better than the old one. This to me is much more fitting for the community. It lines up better with this industrial district over here, and it just looks outstanding and it really functions well. Speaking of functionality, that was another issue. Even after getting into the build, things were looking pretty hairy for a moment there, but we can see that things are for the most part looking good. We've got some traffic challenges, but all the other status indicators, these are things that are kind of just popping up from time to time. And honestly, everything over here by Commerce Boulevard, I don't know how I'm feeling about it. The thing is, we've got the Imperial Heights apartments with parking and the Imperial Heights apartments over here. A ton of people live over here, and as a result, we have Tokyo levels of pedestrian activity. I don't know if I should try to fix this or if I should just remove these assets that are causing the problems. Why don't you guys let me know in the comments below? Do you want me to try to tackle this issue, or do you want me to tackle the issue by removing those assets, putting something a bit more reasonable in its place, and seeing what Commerce Boulevard looks like after that? Otherwise, we could just leave it like this. It could just be a hot spot, a spot that's a little bit trickier because of all the pedestrian activity and all the cars and all the crazy things happening. But honestly, we've been able to deal with the issue to the point that it's at least functional, and for that, I feel pretty proud. And on that note, this new version of the simulation is not perfect, but I do feel like it's a step in the right direction. Yes, there's way too much pedestrian activity, but it feels like the vehicular simulation is much closer to what I'd anticipate seeing in the real world. I do think that because of the time compression of the game, there's probably too much traffic, and it kind of feels like people are going absolutely wild, driving everywhere all the time. But again, I'd rather have that than what we had before, which was not enough vehicular activity. This at least gives us some challenges and some things to fix and some things to work towards, and in my opinion, this is a ton more fun than what we had before. And I think the big thing is that at the end of this, I feel a sense of accomplishment, and I didn't always feel that way before. Not because of the simulation anyway, I'd feel that way because I painted something interesting. And this time around, I feel like I've actually accomplished something from the simulation standpoint, which feels good. And on that note, we did do a lot today, and I think it's time to leave it here. I really hope that you've enjoyed this one. If you did, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And I want to thank you so much for your time today. There's a million things that you could have been doing, but you decided to hang out with me and get messy here in Segunda Beach. And for that, I appreciate you and I appreciate your time. I can't wait to see you in the next one where we come back with a story. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.